Hello everyone, Nick here, and it has not been long at all since I did my last plant haul video, but you guys all know I have zero self-restraint when it comes to purchasing houseplants, so I have a bunch more to share with you. This plant haul is going to consist of 7 plants, and unless I say otherwise, all the plants are from the plant shop that I work at here in Philadelphia called Urban Jungle. So the first plant is going to be this gorgeous little Peperomia trinervula. I believe they call this commonly a bush peperomia, and it's a wonderful little peperomia that obviously resembles a bush with little succulent green leaves and wonderful little red stems that kind of zigzag its way up. As it is a peperomia, it prefers bright and direct light, and it likes to dry out in between waterings. My trick for my peperomias is I give the leaves a squeeze. Typically the peperomia's leaves are quite succulent. There is an exception to this for quite a few peperomias, as there are over 1,000 species, which is phenomenal. But yeah, this is a peperomia right here that I know that if I squeeze the leaves and they feel quite succulent and barely have any give to them, I know it's good on water, versus if it starts to get kind of flimsy and wilted, then I know it's time to water. And usually, as long as the plant has very good drainage, you want to give the plant just a very, very good saturation. And then within the next few hours to the next day, the plant will reabsorb all the water and become very succulent once again. I have this Peperomia trinervula hanging out in this wonderful little ceramic pot vase. Bowl? I don't really know. It's a little ceramic thing that I found at a thrift store around here in Philadelphia, and I just saw it and I thought it would be absolutely perfect for a little plant. So I went to the plant store that I work at and brought it with me, and I decided that this Peperomia trinervula was just absolutely perfect for this pot. So I think many of you would agree that this is just absolutely adorable. I'm eager to see if this peperomia grows upright like the bush peperomia that it's called, or if it's going to start to trail over and envelop this little vintage ceramic mug that I planted it in. Super excited to watch this one grow. This next one is a fun new variegated plant for you. It's a Pilea cadierei variegata, or commonly known as a variegated aluminum plant. I've had some really good luck growing my standard aluminum plants, so when I got these variegated ones in at the shop that I work at, I thought this has to join my plant team. So this one hangs out directly underneath the grow light that my other Pilea cadierei hangs out under, because that one is just absolutely loving life there. So this one is hopefully going to follow the pattern of its sibling. I find that Pileas are quite similar to peperomias in the manner that they prefer bright and direct light, but they prefer high humidity and are quite drought tolerant. In fact, this plant right here is one that I let go until it starts to wilt, and then once I found it toppled over, I'll actually go ahead and give it water, and the next day it's completely back up and upright and just completely perfect looking. And this way I ensure that I don't overwater the plant, which helps me not lose any of the lower leaves, which is usually lost from overwatering. It's always really exciting to see new variegated plants on the market, so I was very happy to find this variegated Pilea cadierei and add it to my collection. Here's another Pilea for you. So this right here I believe is Pilea spruceanum silver tree, or I think they just call it a silver tree Pilea commonly. It's a beautiful plant that has kind of a rippled edge and a corrugated leaves and a silver streak down the middle, so perhaps that's why they call it silver tree. But just such a wonderful little plant that I kind of grazed over quite a bit when I first saw it, but I used to pass over quite a bit of Pileas, but ever since my Pilea cadierei has been growing so well for me, I've kind of had a soft spot in my heart for them. This plant right here I'm pretty sure is going to go in one of my terrariums, because I have a terrarium that desperately needs a change out, so I think this plant is going to grow perfectly in there, since as a Pilea it does prefer high humidity and it likes to dry out quite a bit in between waterings, and I tend to grow plants like Pileas and Peperomias in my terrariums that usually don't like to stay too wet and like to be on the brighter side. But as I said, I've been really into Pileas lately. The Pilea Peperomia Obtuse is fine and dandy and everything, but I just find that the Pileas other than them are quite underserved plants and really should be more paid attention to. So I've been just really into the aluminum plant, and then after that I started to notice all the other ones. But as well as this Pilea, I did get another one recently, which is this Pilea right here, which is called a Pilea involucrata. I think that's what it's called. I think they call it Pilea Pan Am. I could be making up names. I really am not quite sure about this Pilea. I got it at Lowe's. Unlike all the other plants on this list, I do have another one that I'll show you guys next from Lowe's as well. But this is just another type of Pilea, but I just found it's quite beautiful in its dulled down appearance with its like blackish, grayish leaves, and it's just corrugated, reptile-ish appearance, and they are kind of fuzzy. I don't know if you can see this on camera, but the leaves are quite fuzzy. But yeah, really just a wonderful, sprawling looking plant, and as I've been saying, Pilea have just been really catching my eyes lately, so I decided to get another one when I was at Lowe's and saw this gorgeous little sprawling Pilea. So Pilea involucrata, once again it's a Pilea, so it prefers high humidity, it prefers bright light, and it prefers high I just said high humidity. It prefers to dry out in between waterings. So I have this one as well as all the other Pileas that I'm sharing, and really all the plants that I'm sharing today. I have them hanging out under my grow light in my bedroom because it's a very controlled environment with high humidity, and I can just keep a very close eye on them and be sure that they're all growing well and just let them adapt to my home before I maybe move them somewhere else that's not going to be as controlled and similar to the greenhouse that they grew up in. The other plant I found at Lowe's was quite a find actually. So it's a Rhipsalis. I think this is a Rhipsalis Pasiphae. I actually have no idea how to pronounce that name, so I could be totally mispronouncing it, but I'm going to leave the description or the name in the description of my video. So on the tag, this said it was a Rhipsalis Campos Portoana or something along those lines. But I feel pretty confident, as well as many other people who messaged me on Instagram about it when I posted about it, that this is a Rhipsalis Pasiphae. So a really wonderful little spaghetti-like plant. I kind of call it spaghetti here in my home, or green spaghetti is what I've been referring to it as, because that's literally what this plant is. And it's just so wonderful. I've seen some really old specimens before at a plant shop nearby that have just been hanging like feet, and it was just absolutely stunning. This is an epiphytic jungle cacti, so I see this mounted quite a bit, similar to you see mounted staghorn ferns. This is only my second Rhipsalis, so tips are certainly appreciated because I am still learning about this plant. But as far as I'm concerned, this plant likes a little bit less light than your other cacti, even though it's considered a cactus or a jungle cactus. So I've been giving this plant a little bit less light, having it pulled back quite a few feet from my south-facing window. This is the only plant I'm not growing under the conditions that I have in my bedroom because I'm not sure if this plant does prefer humidity or if it doesn't prefer humidity. So I'm keeping it out in the drier, brighter living room where it's getting, I think a good amount of light and letting it dry out quite a bit in between waterings. And I'm hoping that this plant grows quite a bit for me. I'm really excited after seeing some of the specimens I've seen that this plant is just going to be a total curtain one day, and I am really thrilled to find this plant at Lowe's because it was on sale for some reason too. I don't know if there was marked down for clearance or if there was a 1 gallon hanging basket planter sale going on. Really a good find for a Lowe's or a big box store, so I'm really definitely getting tempted to go out there and see what else I can find at the big box stores because I'm usually just shopping around at the store that I work at since I am the buyer, so I really just buy whatever I'm looking for. But when I do get out and go to other stores, I really only purchase things that I never see on my availability, or at least I haven't noticed. This next one is quite literally the largest Peperomia orba I have ever seen. This plant I think is commonly called a Peperomia Pixie, but I think its scientific name is Peperomia Pixie Lime is its cultivar. So it's a really, really wonderful plant that I don't really enjoy the smell of it quite a bit. If any of you grow coleus or plectranthus plants, you might be kind of familiar with that peppery smell that the plant gives off if you kind of mess with it when you're replanting it or just kind of graze by the plant or pruning it or anything like that. This plant has that same exact smell, so a very peppery peperomia, if you will, but it's a very beautiful plant. And I've had Peperomia orba Pixie Lime before, and I had killed it. I'm pretty sure I know exactly what I did wrong, which was give it too much bright direct light, and I gave it too much water, so I have learned very quickly with that plant. So I'm going to put this plant right here under a little bit less of a condition than that. I'm going to give it some bright light from my grow lights that I have in my bedroom on my shelves, and also it's in a very high humidity area, but it's able to dry out quite a bit. I do give it the squeeze test when I know to water it. When I was just saying with my Peperomia trinervula earlier that you squeeze the leaves, I usually squeeze one of the more mature leaves because if you squeeze one of the ones that are still developing, they usually are quite flimsy to begin with. But if you squeeze some of the more developed leaves, they are typically quite firm and don't have any give to them. However, when they are in need of water, the plant's going to feel totally felted and just totally flimsy as well. Specifically, this plant will feel very felted. Other peperomias don't really feel very felty, but this is a very soft, fuzzy peperomia to begin with. So this plant right here is definitely one that I swear by the squeeze test, and I would highly recommend not watering this plant if it still has some give to it because it's gonna rot on you very easily. So definitely a plant that requires some bright indirect light to survive and really doesn't want to be overwatered. This last plant is a real looker, I will say. So it is a Peperomia Obtusifolia Variegata Gold is what the tag said, and it is just your standard Peperomia Obtusifolia, which for me, maybe shame on me, but I consider Peperomia Obtusifolia to be a rather common, basic peperomia compared to the rest. However, when I got these Peperomia Obtusifolia Variegata golds in at the shop that I work at, I was just absolutely blown away. I had never seen a Peperomia Obtusifolia so big, first of all, but so beautiful. The variegated peperomias that I normally see at like an IKEA or a Home Depot are just so like forgettable. They're very small, they're very not happy looking. Usually the plants at Home Depot and stuff aren't very happy looking, so when I do find something good, I'm like ecstatic. But these plants are just huge. So I was really thrilled. I had a few other kinds of Peperomia Obtusifolia and Clusiifolia that I was carrying at the shop that I work at. A few variegated ones too, but I just found that this Variegata gold was just the absolute winner, and I've never felt so strongly about Peperomia Obtusifolia in my life. So if you feel the same way about Peperomia Obtusifolia just because it's like the peperomia that you see when you go to the big box stores, take a second guess when you see this one, because I feel the same exact way, and I am just really taken back by it. And it's huge. Like, look at this. I'm holding this right up against my body, and it's like just taking up the whole thing. A very big peperomia. And the good thing about Peperomia Obtusifolias too is that they usually cost quite a bit less than the other peperomias because they are a little bit more regularly available. So a really excellent find. I'm really happy to see a plant change my mind about a plant that I normally am feeling a little blasé about. So really exciting. If you're wondering about any of the plant names that I shared in this video, be sure to check out the description where I will list them all for you, because I am sure some of them do sound like a little bit of gibberish. But otherwise, be sure to check out my Instagram if you haven't already at phillyfoliage, and I will see you guys in my next video. Have a great day!